Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lyds, and we're back for some more Thronebreaker, and last time we were checking out this lumber camp and defeated the Nilfgaardians who were controlling it, and struck some kind of deal to at least deny the wood that was going to be going to the Nilfgaardians. May or may not have been the most efficient way to actually do that. As for what our plan is for today, we do have a couple of battles over here. Now, I'm a little bit concerned about these battles because generally speaking, these one-off battle encounters that don't really have a full-blown scenario tied to them, they tend to be the most difficult, and I still feel like our deck could use some fine-tuning before we take these guys on. So I think we'll still give it a shot here, but I feel as though we may not be going to have the best odds against those enemies. Fortunately, it seems as though if that is going to be the case, it's not as if this is the only time we'll ever be able to do those encounters, because it seems like we could still go over and check out what's going on over here. This looks rather grim. And then maybe some stuff over here. I imagine there'll be something at this large fortification, and then obviously we start heading down this direction, and we have the main quest here. So basically, looks like there's still a lot of stuff that we can do, and we could potentially circle back to one or both of these battles if it turns out they are particularly difficult, and hopefully, by the time we do circle back, we'll have a stronger deck. So, we'll see. We'll at least get a sense for how difficult they may be, and perhaps pick up a little more resources along the way. We did have to spend a fair bit in that previous encounter. Also, I'm mostly just meandering around looking for other bits and pieces of loot, not really, paying attention to where the encounters might be, but I'm pretty sure that's it. I don't remember. I think it was gold that was the primary limiting factor for our next upgrade, and I'm not even sure it's going to be that big of an upgrade at that. So, not really thinking that hanging around and... Oh. Hold on. I was about to say, I was not really thinking that foraging around like this and picking up a little more resources might be a key difference maker here and give us just enough resources to make some kind of upgrades, but hold on, is this guarded? Ah, okay. Doesn't look like there's an enemy here, but I obviously see the chest. We are currently on high morale. I think there is a shrine that we passed previously, but that might mean that this is the better of the locations for us to prioritize here. If there, I mean, it's probably something for finishing that other encounter, yes, but perhaps the chest might be better still. So why don't we prioritize this one while we're on the high morale? I imagine we can't get to this chest before we fight whatever this mysterious, possibly invisible, or possibly hiding that cave enemy is. There is a Nilfgaardian flag here, but maybe they were all eaten by whatever it is that's hiding in there. Or maybe, you know, it gives us the key to actually open the chest. Yeah. Yeah, either way, we are not going to get access to the chest before we actually finish this. Let's see. So, a cursed land. Before Meve arrived in Angren, her only knowledge of the land came from the songs of troubadours who frequented her castle. Supposedly, it was a land cursed by the gods. Oh, that's great. It'd be kind of nice if we, knew that in advance, maybe would not have decided to come here in the first place, where evil lurked at every turn. At the time, it seemed the poets aimed to exaggerate for effect. Now, on the verge of her next clash with a swamp beast, standing waist-deep in a putrid bog, she understood there was some truth to their every word. Okay, it's a standard battle, so we have to win 2 out of 3 rounds. See what kind of other conditions are in place here. We are on high morale, as I said, so we have a little bit of a bonus there in that sense, but I'm still a little concerned this could be a challenging encounter. Bloodthirsty Algul. Consume the top unit in your graveyard and spawn a base copy of it, cooldown 3. Okay, so that, to me, sounds like we really don't want to be doing much in the way of damage, or we do damage, but if we can, try to avoid actually destroying the cards of our opponent, because otherwise they're gonna consume that card and get points from it, again, even when it's in their graveyard, and then recreate it when they spawn a base copy of it. So yeah, it seems like if we outright destroy one of their units, then we are just handing them points. At least it's cooldown 3. It's not as if they're going to be doing that every single turn, but then again, they might also be consuming their own cards, putting units into their graveyard, and that could also make matters difficult. So, if they are going to get some powerful units from consuming their own units, then something like the Infiltrator could be useful, and then Tainted Ale combined with that is very nice. The question is, how much do we scale back our damage with things like Northern Wind and Alistair's Thunder, the Bombers to a lesser extent, and the Slingers to a lesser extent as well, but that is still something to at least consider. And the Slingers, in a vacuum, are not amazing, unless they have stuff that needs to be in a specific row. I think this might turn into... Okay, well, now we can set fire on both rows. Might turn into a bit of a scouting mission to just see what kind of cards they have here. Fiend immediately deals a lot of damage. What is your deal? That has 20 power. Have the power of 3 adjacent enemy units on deploy. Okay. Well, so I would be concerned about them consuming this and just getting 20 extra points and resummoning onto the board. Technically, if it gets resummoned, spawn a base copy of it, that would suggest that they aren't going to get that deploy ability again. Still, this is looking like a pretty obvious target to put our Strays Infiltrator next to it. I kind of would like to target it with Tainted Ale as well for that same reason, but that also means we would want to hold back on our leader ability. It's a little dangerous, might accidentally kill our Infiltrator, and if we hit you, we're going to weaken our Infiltrator anyway. So, I think we give this a shot. It does mean we're investing pretty heavily in round 1, but I think that is the way to go here. After 2 turns, turn start, boost self, power the unit to the right. Yeah, just want to make sure we're putting it in the right spot.
We got a job to do.
Because we can try to avoid destroying their cards in round 1, but by the time we get to round 2 and round 3, whatever they had on the board is going to the graveyard, so we can't avoid them having units in that graveyard for them to consume for the entirety of this match. So next turn, we're gonna go with that Tainted Ale. What's your deal? Move 2 enemies to the row opposite this unit and apply Torrential Rain. I mean, we didn't have anything in this row, but now we have Rain, so that will deal more damage to us. Could we... Oh. Alright, granted. Order of operations would have been preferable if we had started with the Tainted Ale, then gone Infiltrator, and then we could have now used the Alchemist to get you 8 points higher. Yeah, this is worth 10. 10 extra points on the Infiltrator, so I think we do still prioritize and the Tainted Ale, and maybe in round 2 or round 3. Didn't we have the other... Yeah, we have the other Infiltrator in hand. So there's still some potential here for that to work. But let's do this. That gets Best Boy out. Still deliberately avoiding our leader ability until we get you back. Now, I think it's a much safer bet. Garcane, we've seen these before, don't we? Haven't we? Damage. Sees a damaged bronze enemy. Except then it got destroyed? I'm not sure why that happened. But, and they have another Fiend? Wait, how did they... Is that from their leader ability? Because they didn't have anything in their graveyard, unless they started with one in their graveyard, but I'm almost certain they did not. So that's a little odd. How much longer? 2 turns? Do we... We don't have enough time to sneak in another Infiltrator, do we? Do we? Also, goodness gracious, what? Okay. I mean, if this dies before the Infiltrator comes back to us, then we at least have a 20-point Fiend, which is still not bad. So I guess we still go... I mean, that means we're investing really heavily in this round, because I think these Infiltrators are pretty crucial to our success. They pass. Okay, you are not dead yet, but you are going to be. And when that happens, you're going to drop down to 50. We're going to get the Infiltrator back on our side, so we already should have enough points, and you'll get a big boost. We already should have enough points here to win this round. So as tempted as I may be to use the Alchemist to make this 8 points bigger, might be better still to just save the Alchemist instead, and use something here that is not of critical importance to us, like maybe a Slinger, and if we happen to get Gascon later, it makes Gascon a little bit stronger. So I think we do this. I think we just... granted, they all have armors. This isn't really doing much of anything in the short term, but as I was saying, once this happens, We are definitely winning this round. Okay, tons of movement with now 2 slingers, and we have gotten Gascon into our hands, so that's probably for the best, because we kind of were planning around that when we used the slinger as our last card in the previous round. Concern here is that we used a very powerful... Wait, we did 2 infiltrators, right? In round 1? Which might mean we don't have much firepower left. That is the primary concern. We don't need to win this round, because we won round 1, and we did play 1 more card than our opponent. I think we have 9 cards, they have 10 right now. So that means what we can do is perhaps once again just use some slingers or whatever we think our weakest card is, and use them as throwaways of sorts, and just hope that our opponent wastes some of their big cards here. But in that case, what are we looking for? Because Slinger first turn doesn't do anything. They can't... There's nothing for them to move, right? They don't have any units on the board here. We can move Best Boy. That's not really helpful. It's just going to damage him, which is not really of interest. So... Wait, does this? Whenever an ally appears, right. Okay, it's not whenever an ally moves. I just remember seeing the Infiltrator come back to our side and get boosted by 1, but that's different. That's different. Okay, so... I think... we might swap out an Alchemist. Now that we no longer have Infiltrators, Isabel is definitely a big pickup. Definitely not going to use her in this round. And then the question of how much damage are we willing to use at the risk of putting cards... Well, at this point, they have so many cards in their graveyard from the stuff they played in round 1 and round 2. They're going to be able to consume these, which is terrifying. Which is why I think we really needed to win round 1. That's good, but I have a lot of questions about how we make this round work. And we really don't have very good throwaway options. Yeah, so... Okay, I guess we're going Slinger first, and then maybe we just hold on to Gabor? I mean, we could use a Bomber. I still think that's probably useful to keep that, especially in the long round 3, holding on to it. Oh, we also just never used our leader ability in round 1. We didn't really need it. Maybe we could have avoided investing as much as we did if we had, but... This is going to have to move. Oh, no, you have immunity. Right, so that's actually kind of fine. Kind of fine. We're at least not hitting ourselves. Gives us a tiny bit of extra long-term value on Gascon when we eventually play him in round 3. They're going to consume... Oh, wait a second. Wasn't that a 20 when it was in their graveyard? And now there aren't any left in their graveyard? Okay, we might have just dodged a serious bullet there in that case. That's very intriguing. Alright then. Well, so we have 8 cards at the moment. We could play 1 more, still draw into 3 cards, and be on the full 10 going into round 3. We don't really have anything that's, again, good as just a throwaway card here, something that we don't care about not having in round 3, because all this stuff, for the most part, we would like to save. In truth, probably should have saved our other Slinger, because that would have been half decent. I was concerned about us having to move you around and damage you, but again, because of your immunity, you're actually pretty much fine. I think we might just pass here, and if we do, we will overdraw by 1 card in the next round, and I believe in Thronebreaker, if I remember correctly, that means we're just going to discard that card, which might backfire, depending on what that is. What the heck? What just happened? Okay, we lose a Slinger. I think that's fine. What happened to our Doggo Pal? We're going to discard some cards as well. That was not clear to me why he got destroyed. I mean, for a second I thought he was eating something from her hand, but that very much was not the result that we saw at the end of the round. So, okay. Anyways, that's an aside. Going forward, Bomber in 1 row and 2nd row, those are probably the things we'd like to lead off with, unless there's something really important for us to take out quickly, in which case we have Thunder and we have Gabor. Gascon's probably something we played relatively late. We got some movement, still could have gotten him a little bit bigger, perhaps. But at 16, he's certainly not bad, per se. Questions about the Alchemist. Can we still make that effective without infiltrators? And if we put something big next to Gascon, we could get something roughly up to Gascon's power, which might be as much as a plus 12 for Isbel, making you 17 points worth of value. So yes, if we're mindful of this, that can be good. But I am a little skeptical, and I guess Blood might give us access to other cards that could be good next to Gascon, or more movement to help power up Gascon further. I guess we'll stick with this. Still concerned about the firepower they may have. Fortunately, now that they've started off by putting Torrential Rain in that row, we will just proceed to dodge that. Yeah, and this does not have any additional abilities, so it's not as if they're going to move us into that row. So now, let's use the Balmer.
Watch your heads!
Set that row on fire, and now we will definitely look to use Leader Building here. So how much firepower do they have left? If there is a unit on the opposite row, damage the one with the highest power and self. Okay, that's a little weird. Oh, on both rows. Okay, it really feels like we should just row stack here like crazy. Putting everything in the melee row to avoid this torrential rain damage, and also to just make it so this flutter doesn't have anything to hit. That seems like that's probably the play. Meanwhile, we can set this row on fire as well. I think that's the way to start things off. What is... Destroy these units? Wait, what? Oh, why did I think this was damage? And I totally read this as damage, not destroy. Or at least processed it as damage, not destroy. Hold on. If there's a unit on the opposite row, destroy the one with the highest power and self. So, basically, I'm pretty sure that actually worked pretty well for us the previous time. That must have been how Best Boy died before. But if we have a 5-point card that we're losing compared to a 7-point card that they're losing, we win that trade, so to speak. So I think that works. I think that works fine for us. And in which case, we'd kind of just like to stall a little bit for now. So I don't want to use Barnabas until we have more units on the board. Most of the time, the highest value cards we can get from him are the ones that power up multiple of our units, or something along those lines. Nothing really good for Alchemist to do right now. Gascon is not particularly time-sensitive. I mean, we don't really have other things to use to move him around, but we'd like to keep him big so that we can have something for the Alchemist to go after. Also, it seems like, you know, playing small to lead off is a good way to dodge these flutters, for the most part. Isabel could go early, but I think we probably want to save her, so I think it is Blood. And we just move. Stuffs.
Hey?
Well, ooh, okay, so we don't really want to damage you. Except we are going to kind of need to damage you. Alright, so much for, trading up with these, I suppose. I mean, sure, at this point now it's going to mean they're losing a 3, we're losing a 5. In truth, it just means that the damage on this flutter coming from the slingers is not that meaningful. It is still movement, so it does still support Gascon, so it's still not the end of the world, but it does mean that it's not quite as beneficial as it once appeared that was going to be. There it is. So now it's a sort of a negative 2-point play, but not exactly. Yeah, that's just movements. And it is still for the best, I think, if we can dodge that rain. So now, equals the unit on its left. So this doesn't work here at the moment. I mean, we could Gabor. These aren't of critical importance to destroy, because they aren't doing anything anymore. So not really worried about those. And most of the stuff we have left is damage-oriented, unless it's Gascon or Barnabas. So I guess it might be Barnabas time. I think it's not gonna be great, because again, generally the more units there are, the more potential he has. I mean, I guess there's nothing wrong with us damaging something like the Drowner. He's up to, what, 15 damage nowadays? It'd be great if we could not destroy you, so you don't have as much fuel in your graveyard, but... Alright, yeah, maybe we'll go Barnabas. As I said, I think...
Turnips back for an encore.
Ooh. We have lowest. They have highest. That's pretty effective. Damage 3 units by 3 if already damaged, destroy them instead. That's very effective. Which, this is a 30-point play. This is 3 points here. Then plus 8. Oh, yeah, that's actually not quite as good, surprisingly. And then draw and play 2 Blitz units. I think we've established previously we have little to no Blitz cards in our deck. So I think it is the Becker's Dark Mirror here. The risk with this is that it does mean we're going to suddenly have a much bigger unit, and so if they do have a way to trade our cards with more of these Fletters, then it's going to be a much bigger loss for us. So that's potentially an issue. But at least in the short term, it is certainly good. And their movement, for what it's worth, is making Gascon stronger, so that is useful, and one of the reasons why Gascon is pretty big here. And it also means we have a potential way to make this Slinger better through the Alchemist, but still, Gascon would be even better. They do go for the Fletter. The Fletter, on this occasion, is minus set. They lose 7, we lose 6, so that's actually not bad as long as we don't play anything big in this melee row on this turn. We could technically destroy you with Gabor, but that is actually a negative point play in that case. Is it time for Gascon? It could be. It could be. I think we go for it.
And just when you thought things were about to get dull.
Do that to make him slightly stronger. We lose 6, they lose a 7, that's fine. That is extremely unfortunate. Because, oh, we do have leader ability back, okay. Because that was going to be the recipient of the Alchemist boost. Alchemist cannot boost itself when put next to Gascon. We could put Gabor there, it's a little bit worse. But what was... Let's see. You're just spying now because you've been stolen. Sees a damaged bronze enemy? Yeah, okay. So, I think we might kind of need to get Gabor down here, because we want to set up Gascon as quickly as possible, I think. Otherwise, we run the risk of him getting destroyed by one of those Fletters, and at that point, that means we don't even have our preferred target. I mean, we do have a backup plan, I suppose, but... Alright, so... In which case, yes. You, or maybe even Isabel, but...
All right,
do this...
That's no problem.
Damage by 15. It's not a critically important card for us to go after. We'd kind of like to hit the stuff that has lower base power, but I guess we'll do... We're gonna destroy something, unless we hit you, you survive with 1. I guess that's kind of the ideal situation, isn't it? I mean, you might end up dying, you probably will end up dying to the fire, at least at some point, yes. Especially if we do this. Also, I was not thinking from a lining up cards in the same number to set up our leader ability standpoint, but... I think once again, we just hit stuff that is not going to get destroyed if we can. And granted, fire does do just that. Okay, that hits us half the power. The timing, though. Every time, the timing. Okay. So we were about to use Alchemist on this turn, probably still will, for plus 10 points on Gabor, but that is... very unfortunate. technically we probably should play you here.
Greetings. What is it?
And we need to make sure that we have enough time to sneak Isbel in. Okay, that Flutter is not good. That Flutter has to go. Another Fiend. So these are just, like, absolutely busted powerful. And then the Flutter, I think we have to destroy it. One way or another. Which we can do with Northern Wind. Right, because this was 6 damage total to all damaged enemies, and you are obviously already damaged. So otherwise, I mean, I guess it's actually... It's trading a 5-power card for a 5-power card. Yeah, okay. Now that they hit us with the Fiend, it's actually not a huge deal. So I guess we don't need to rush into that, and the longer we wait, the stronger that Alistair's Thunder, normal... Or less so Alistair's Thunder, but Northern Wind could become. So I guess we go Isbel. Alright, these are powering up Isbel. So at least there's that. At least there's that. Isbel is our win condition, basically. She must survive.
I'd hoped we could solve
Fortunately,
this some other way.
She's the smallest unit in this row, which means if they play one of those Flutters in this row, then it would destroy the Alchemist, not Isbel, so that is pretty important. We're going to lose one of these guys. But that was an even exchange. We lost 5 points, they lost 5 points. That did terrify me for a second there. As long as Isbel is alive and well, then we can win. Because they have 69 points and we have 83 damage. Forget exactly how we determined this works, but theoretically, that should mean that they will have 0 points on the board, right? Technically speaking, using that on our very last turn to guarantee we win would be ideal. I'm not sure that I am feeling bold enough to not use Isbel on this turn. Otherwise, let's see, they're not about to get their leader ability back. So we just Alistair's Thunder stuff, basically. I guess. And we just pray that Isbel survives for one more turn. Because this is their last card. They don't have anything to steal. So it's all up to Isbel, basically. Does this mean that she quite literally destroys every single card on their side of the board? Or do we have some risk that she over-damages some of these cards and wastes some of it? Well, we're about to find out. No, they don't have anything on the board. Isbel is incredible. Confirmed. We don't even need to play this last card. Although we technically do need to. Alright, Isbel is also busted. And will absolutely carry us to the win. Alright then. So, yes, that did seem to be a pretty difficult encounter. Fortunately, Isbel was gaining a bunch of power from all the damage they dealt to us. But let's see what we can learn here, because I imagine this is not... Or there is some significance to this, because there's a chest here, and now there's a note. From Count Caldwell to Sergeant Glomir Alec. Don't think we've heard... Obviously, we know about Caldwell, but don't think we've heard about this Sergeant guy. I expect initiative and creativity from my subalterns, not whining about logistical issues or a critical lack of infrastructure. Sounds like a novice strategist, at least military strategist from Caldwell. You couldn't find a suitable building to store the collected taxes? Then find a freaking cave. There are hundreds of them in Angren. And despite what every peasant might say, bloodthirsty monsters do not lurk behind every shrub. Think twice the next time you bother me with these trivial matters. Oh, the irony. Oh, the irony. And it's even stained with blood as well. Perfect. Perfect. Can't go into the cave itself? No. Okay. Fitting. Fair enough, I suppose. That is... Whoa. That looks like a fiend. A fiend carcass. Okay, it's not as if it gave us a whole bunch of extra stuffs, though. What is in the big chest, though? That is what I'm wondering, of course. What do we have here? The answer is a border for Gwent multiplayer. I'm trying to figure out what that's supposed to be. I think it's sort of like swampy branches and moss and whatnot. I'm not really sure what that is in the bottom left corner, but okay. I mean, it looks kind of cool, but again, I'm not entirely sure what it's supposed to be, which makes it a little hard to gauge how much I would want to actually use that. But that is one of the big difficult encounters, at least, that I suspect we'll run into here in this area. Again, the other one being this one-off battle, because generally speaking, since we have to use our own starting deck, that does tend to make these stronger, because our deck is not particularly strong. We did have high morale for that encounter, which probably helped us survive from some of the damage that might have otherwise taken out some of our units. We do not have high morale anymore, though, so that could make this a little bit tougher still. So that makes me a little bit nervous. We do have a shrine, if we would like to use that, but maybe we just see. At the very least, we've gotten one of these encounters finished. I think that's definitely a good thing. As I was saying before, I imagine we can probably come back to do these other encounters later on if necessary. The downside to what we just did was also that we didn't really get anything in the short term that improved our deck. I was kind of hoping we were going to get a new card or something along those lines that could power us up. But now we are just actually weaker going into this encounter than we were for the previous one. So that might not bode well for us, but here goes nothing. Can we actually loot this before we... Not quite. Yes, we can. Okay, fair enough. Can we just, excuse me, sir, can we just perhaps peruse that notice board? Don't mind us. No, we can't. Oh, okay, fine. Fine. Alright, so this could be tough. Without the extra bonus from us being on high morale. The people of Angren. I'm pretty sure that is not a person. Pretty sure that was a vampire of some variety. Rumor has it the Nilfgaardian Empire eradicated nearly all monsters within its borders. Clearly that doesn't include Angren then. If true, Angren must have proved a wholly unpleasant change for the Imperials. At every turn, every trip to relieve oneself in the bushes, a bloodthirsty beast lurks just out of sight. Okay, it's also another standard battle, which I mean, it means best 2 out of 3. Not sure if that helps us or hurts us, given how our opponent probably has what is objectively a much stronger deck than what we have. So it's largely a matter of just, can we outplay them? Let's see what we can learn here. Whenever a vampire is played, boosted by 2. Okay, that's a little more straightforward than what we saw in the previous encounter at the very least. But some of those vampires are nasty, stealing some of our units and whatnot. We do have Infiltrator plus Tainted Ale, as we did in the previous encounter. That could be really useful if they have 1 or 2 really big cards for us to put the Infiltrators next to. Alchemist can also be helpful to power up an Infiltrator, or maybe the same one that's getting set up by Tainted Ale, maybe just the second one. Other than that, Isabel we saw absolutely humongous in the previous encounters. Definitely going to keep her, but going to want to save her for round 3, I think. Slinger, with no Gascon and no other slingers, is questionable. But tell you what, I think maybe 1 Alchemist we can get a lot of value out of. 2 Alchemists? I have some questions there. I mean, I guess you make 1 Infiltrator big, it comes back to your side. Then you use the Alchemist to make another card the same amount of points as that Infiltrator. So I guess there's something to be said for that. I just don't see great options for round 1 here. So we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. Then we're kind of stuck. By that as well, I guess. Almost everything else we might want to save. I guess we can use some of our damage in round 1. Okay, we can still make this work, I suppose. How do we lead things off, though? Ooh, this would have been much easier if they went first, wouldn't it? Yeah. Oh. Well. Alrighty then. We're gonna have to move our own cards around with the Slinger. That might be what we're looking at here. Otherwise, blood and just see what we happen to get. I kind of prefer to do that in round 3, so we are not at risk of discarding cards we might otherwise want to play later on in the match. So I think it is going to be a self-slinger. Fortunately, we have some armor. So at least there's that. Also, if we hit the footmen, we might be able to swap those out later for other cards, so it's not as big of a deal to damage them if they're only here temporarily. Alright, what do you have? What can we learn about you? Spawn 2 copies of this unit every turn start. Drain a random enemy by 1. That's also the same for you? Yeah. So we would love to destroy these. And I mean, we definitely can do a lot of damage with Leader. Leader ability automatically destroys these two. Or we hit you, and we hope that the random damage from the Arbalist happens to hit you, and then that would also be quite useful. Thunder can definitely take them out, but the problem is the big one is on the end, not in the middle. So that's not perfect. Not exactly big targets for a Tainted Ale / Infiltrator combo, so I don't love that either, but honestly, we might need to go that route. What if we lead with this? Okay, got rid of one of the little guys. Then I think we established Tainted Ale first is really the preferable order of operations. Yeah, I really should have gone for the little guy. The leader ability guaranteed we got rid of both of them, especially because now they're getting bigger every turn, because they are not just damaging, they're actually leeching. Turn start drain lowest enemy units plural by 1. Oh, that would also be a great thing to put an infiltrator next to. Alright, well, fortunately we can swap these out, as we were saying before, and we may proceed to do that very soon. But the plan, at least for now, technically speaking, you are going to get bigger than this.
Shh, cock it.
Does that can happen quickly enough? Not entirely sure. I think we do swap these.
Alright.
Yeah, unfortunately, we missed the deployability in Gabor, so that's kind of more or less exactly what I was saying at the beginning, why I didn't usually like to use these for that purpose, but alright, we throw good money after bad.
Scheiß in zwei.
Hold on. Ah! Okay. When we use this, it puts them back into our deck? I guess I didn't realize that. So I know there are always the footmen showing up here, and it's kind of bugged. These aren't actually in our deck, but yes, when we use the order ability, they do go back, truthfully. So we traded one for a different one. It did work out, because the one that we got rid of was already damaged. So that was kind of nice. And we could do it again if we really wanted to, but yeah, so now this gets much bigger, which is why I think it was definitely the right play to put you next to this guy. Oh, well, this does too. Okay. Well, we're definitely learning more about this enemy. Does seem like infiltrators are going to be a pretty big deal. And that we really ought to have targeted, honestly, I mentally made a note that I wanted to hit the little guys, and then I accidentally targeted the big guy. So that if that comes back to bite us, and it already has to a certain extent, then, you know, oops. But equal to units left? Nah, not really. Not really helpful on this occasion. So, I mean, we could still do this and take you out. You are going to get destroyed anyway on the next turn. Or, yeah, on our next turn. Just don't really think that makes a lot of sense right now. So, in that case, I'd like to wait for an alchemist until we get something else over here. But we don't have great options. This is kind of what I was referring to before as well. That we are going to eventually run out of things to play in round 1. Unless we use blood. I don't like using blood in round 1 because then we're going to discard some cards that we might otherwise still want to play. Kind of similar to what happened to us with Gabor. So we are not playing this very well, I would argue. But go for Gabor.
What?
Or we go for
Yes,
Barnabas,
yes,
rather.
I'm on it.
We do have a lot of cards on the board here. Transform a damaged card into... Ooh. This intrigues me. This intrigues me quite a bit. Okay, yeah, just making sure this is the card that we're using right now that I think it is, and it is. Okay, cool. Then we go here, and Barnabas is going to potentially be the card that we... Oh, no, you're going to come back here. Okay. Okay.
thing about slings.
I think we can
they are,
still...
well,
You're gonna get destroyed. Move... Can't move you. I mean, it has to be these three, right? Even if you're gonna get destroyed anyway. So we don't want to move you, because that breaks this setup. And we obviously don't want to move you, because we're destroying our own card in that case. Okay, but that is the big play that we were setting up for. What is your deal? Yeah, same as what we saw in the previous encounter. If there is a unit on the opposite row, destroy the one with the highest power and self. That's not good. That's very not good. And we do not quite have enough damage to take you out because of that 2 armor, which is a humongous problem. I mean, at least we're going to lose a 22 power unit. At least they're going to lose a 15 power unit, so yes, we lose 7 points. But if this were, you know, them trading a 21 point unit on our side for a 1 point unit on their side, that'd be terrible news for us. So at least it's not quite that bad. But otherwise, yeah, so we actually should not hit it with Alzur's Thunder in that case. Might go here and take out the Plumbered by doing this. I think at this point, even after this happens, we should still be in the lead. I think we should be looking to pass soon. Okay, now this is a great trade for us, because that's going to destroy a 15 power card on their side and a 5 power card on our side. I'd like to keep you on the board if possible, because you do give us carryover, but once this happens, our lead will grow by 10 points. So I think we just rely on that winning us round 1. They will probably try to play more, but we'll see. Okay, we do lose the card we wanted to lose, so that's good. They do have the leeching, though. I don't remember what that does, but it's not enough for them to catch us yet, so they will, I think, still have to play another card. That's good news. So they'll win round 1, but they play 2 cards extra to make it happen, which means we should have a pretty huge advantage in round 2 and round 3. So in most circumstances, in this situation, a human, in the situation that our opponent currently finds himself in, would dry pass. They would play nothing in this round because they played more cards than we did, significantly more cards than we did in round 1. So if they continue to play stuff, then we're going to just have more cards to work with than they do, so we have a big advantage. But it's a computer, so I have no idea to what extent we can expect them to do that. We do still have an Infiltrator, we do still have Gascon, could also be targets for Alchemist to work with. Isbel, I'm actually surprised she doesn't have more than 30 at this point, but that number is going to get pretty huge, I think. Some concern that she's going to get destroyed because they do have a lot of damage, but especially against small units, and Isbel will be a small unit when we play her. That makes me a little nervous. But otherwise, Slinger, if they do... Actually, we don't even have to play anything if they dry pass, because we already have you on the board. Technically, we have 8 cards. We do have 1 throwaway, so we actually should use Slinger if they don't play anything. So it gives us carryover on... Gascon. Alrighty then. Well, in that case, this is what, in multiplayer Gwent, you would usually refer to as a very greedy play. They have 5 cards left. We have 8 cards left, so again, we do have a big advantage here. At least in terms of the number of things that we can do. But we shall see. I mean, their cards, for the most part, are stronger than our cards. So that does still make me a little concerned, nonetheless. Slinger can destroy both these little Plumbards and hit this bigger Plumbered. Can't destroy this one. We do have leader ability back. I wonder if we can maybe get by with saving leader ability. Like, if we do this... Makes Gascon much bigger, of course. You're a 10, you're going to hit the lowest unit, which is you. Drop it to a 3, raise you to an 11. So we'd be at 10, they'd be at 11, so that's not enough. I think we do. In case they pass on this turn. Using leader ability means we don't need to play anything else. So I think that is still, despite the not amazing value, it means they need to play further. More of those guys. Alright. Here's another thought. A relatively early northern wind. Usually we like to use this as a finisher. However, by damaging all enemies by 2, we can quickly dispose of these little plummers, who will get bigger over time. It's so close, but not quite enough to get rid of this plummered. Unfortunately, that'll still survive with 1 power. This one very much will still be alive. Otherwise, we go... I mean, it seems like they're pushing pretty hard in this round. So otherwise, we'd go Bomber if we expect this to be a long round, and put it in this row, and... it's probably not going to be enough to take out the... I think we really need to do this. Reduce the total number of plummers. They might pass here because we have not caught them. We have not caught them, which means if they pass now, we will still need to play another card. However, in that case, they'll be at 4 cards, we'll be at 5 cards going into round 3, we still have an advantage. So this is one of the most interesting games that we've had against the CPU in a... I mean, there haven't been that many battles for 3 rounds, but from a strategery standpoint, this is the most unique, the most aggressive that they've played ever, I think, thus far, and they do pass. As we were saying, that does make a lot of sense for them to go for it there. So, what can we do here, though? We don't have great short-term options. Obviously, Gascon is more than enough, but we'd like to save him for round 3. Isbel, very much do not want to play her here, because we want to save her for round 3. Bomber, minimal value in a short round. We'd like to save that for a later round. Infiltrator does not have enough time to come back to our side of the board, so that's a negative point play for the time being. That kind of just leaves us with an Alchemist that does not have anything to use its ability on. But is that enough in and of itself? I don't think it is. I don't think it is, because that gives us 4 more points, gets us up to... well, actually, 5 more points, because Valmir's Horn will make you into 5, so then we're up at 13, but they get 2 more damage and gain 2 more points, so this is not enough. This gets us, you're functionally a 7, we're up to 15, which means we're tied. That's still not good enough because they won round 1. We have to play Gascon. Unfortunately, Gascon is the only way we can win this round in 1 card. That really stinks, because that was incredibly close. Unless the fire for Bomber triggers. We play Bomber, and the fire actually does hit them, and that is the best play. But it is relying on a 33% chance of the fire to trigger. I think that's the number that it is, which is not really a risk that I want to be taking, so I think we have to. I don't like it, because it was going to be a big point slam for round 3, but I think we have to. Because otherwise, this was just enough to cause us issues. So that means our win condition for round 3 is very much all based on Isbel. Oh, that's... oh. That's the other reason why you don't play Blood in round 1. Wow. Wow. Okay. Alright then. We have almost certainly automatically lost. Okay. I did not realize we had so few cards left in our deck. And it is a little misleading when you have the fake footman hanging out in there that makes it seem like you have more than you actually do. Obviously, the ability here is going to do nothing. Wow. Okay, this is... if we can pull this off, it is not even a minor miracle. This is...
Off to the front yet again.
extremely unlikely we can do this, but maybe with enough damage from Isbel, it'd still be possible. We get leader ability back in this turn, we do. Okay, that's definitely big. I mean, technically speaking, Isbel does give us more damage when we take damage, but... so if they were only hitting us for damage, then it's kind of a net 0-point play, assuming Isbel can survive when we play her. But because they're also boosting themselves, it is better for them than it is for us. So I think what we're looking at here in that case is we're going to go... Leader ability, we are going to target the 2s to get rid of both of them. Not going to get any extra damage on you, so you are going to survive. You will probably end up being the target for the Strays Infiltrator unless they play another one of the other big leech cards here. We'd like to get Bomber out early as well. We need to make sure we have enough time for the Infiltrator to do its thing, though. Okay. One step at a time. One step at a time. Bomber. Do we bet on them playing more in this row or this row? Because they have one card here, but a logical player would obviously not play in the row that we put the row effect on. So, I mean, let's still go for it, though. Let's go here. Just so we have some cards next to each other that we can use. His unit on its left. Okay, granted, that's a negative point play here, but... Let's see. Yeah, they go this road, and this is the one that... oh! Destroy the one with the highest power and self. We're losing a 7-point bomber. They're losing a 15-point flutter. That works out for us. So that's fine. Can't put the Infiltrator there, however, because then there's not going to be anything for the Infiltrator to be next to. Put the Infiltrator here, it might get destroyed by fire, which granted is something that we should have anticipated. So was my bad. I don't want to rush Isabel, but we might have to. Isabel would have been our winning card if... I mean, she's obviously still our most important card, without a doubt. That and Infiltrator combined with the Alchemist. Yeah, we need to do this. We need to take this chance.
Gotta get our asses moving.
Otherwise, we won't have time for the Alchemist to do their thing. Isabel is critically important that she's one of, if not the last card that we play. Okay, fortunately you did not get hit by the fire, although you did, and that makes you weaker. What do you do? Move an ally to this row, boost all units on it by 4. That actually helps us, though. Okay. So, I mean, now we can use the Alchemist. Either we rush Isabel, or we use Alchemist to make our own Infiltrator stronger, which might be worth doing. The thing that scares me about Isabel and not having last say is that, as we saw in the previous encounter, Isabel was the very last card to use her order ability, which destroyed every single unit they had on the board. They had no way of winning. However, they are going to play the last card, which means they will always have at least one card on the board that they play in their last turn that Isabel has no opportunity at all to hit, because we accidentally milled ourselves, getting rid of all the cards in our deck, could not draw into as many cards as we were supposed to draw into, because a combination of removing cards when we used the Gessa Footman, and also when we used Blood. So that was, I guess I didn't really fully explain that before. That was why I was so shocked when, and said that we basically just played ourselves when the round started. But I think we go Alchemist here. We at least delay Isabel a little bit more to try to make it a tad safer.
Greetings. What
Less
is
likely
it?
that she gets answered. She does need to get played on her next turn, though, because she takes a turn before we can use her order ability. You come back, which is definitely good. Archgriffin, the timing is not great anymore, because we don't have the Infiltrator here anymore. So we put Isabel here next to this Infiltrator. We definitely don't want this to get destroyed. Although, as long as they are slow about putting a Flutter down there, we can at least use Alchemist to make Isabel 30 points as well, which will be the plan here. Just make sure we get the positioning right, equals the unit on its left. So, left card should be big, right unit should be small.
So
Do this.
much anger and suffering. For what?
Okay, please do not destroy Isabel. She's critically important. She's critically important. Oh, okay. Okay. Hey, it means the Alchemist ability is stronger, right? Means more value out of the Alchemist, right? Sure it does.
Asks, you've not
I guess
seen
so.
him.
Alright, so that is one of our big plays, and obviously the Isabel order is worth 42. As I was saying, the later this is, the better. I mean, it's already, I suppose, not going to be enough to destroy everything, but here goes nothing. Unfortunately, it does not destroy everything, or does not destroy anything. It weakens everything significantly, but if we'd gotten at least rid of the plummered altogether and gotten less damage on these guys, that would have been nice, because the plummered is still giving them long-term value. But we have a 54-point lead. They have 2 cards left. We will get a little more value potentially from the fire. Actually, a lot of it, but they will still get value from the plummered. And whatever else they play for these next 2 turns, can we still hold on? If so, it is ridiculous. But somehow, some way, we played ourselves, but we still won. Okay, note to self, we need to be a lot more careful about playing and thinning out summoning cards from our deck, discarding cards from our deck with the blood, because we should not have won that. Let's be very, very honest with you. We had no right winning that match. Okay, well, there's the loot. There is the loot. And there's the notice board over here as well. Just want to make sure we get all the other stuffs too. All the consumables? Okay. Seems like that's it. What is this? From Caldwell again to Corporal... That's a lot of Fs. Sifri Vrlige. We still lack enough loggers to meet the expectations of our most gracious emperor, Emir Var Emrys, the white flame dancing on the graves of his foes. May the great sun shine upon him. Also, he's giving the full formal name of the Emperor and just showing how much he is, you know, sucking up to the Nilfgaardians after he obviously betrayed us before. So, no honor in this Caldwell guy, as we, of course, knew as soon as he betrayed us. So, if they'll not be tempted by coin, a whip will suffice. Oh, so now he's just going to try to torture the loggers. The boars are squatting like beasts in the woods, but I have no doubt you'll find them. I expect to have 24 new laborers before the month's end. Yeah, well, perhaps, that was a bit of foreshadowing for the logging encounter that we saw over here, and of course we have already completed that. And we will make sure that the Nilfgaardians do not get their shipment of wood, even if Caldwell very much desires to receive said resources. But there you go, 2 encounters that did prove to be a little bit difficult. Granted, at least in the case of the most recent one, we did make it a lot more difficult than it had to be. Somehow, we still made it work, though. Thankfully, very nearly, things went horribly wrong there, but definitely a good thing to check those 2 off, because now we can continue on. We actually don't know of any other side questing materials outside of just, well, I mean, the main quest down here, but as we were saying before, lots of other stuff for us to explore going forward, so I am looking forward to that. But with that being said, this is a good place for us to wrap up here, so thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.